So how are you today?
Oh, I'm fine.
It's really nice to
Yes.
see you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's nice to see you.
Good. I'm really happy that you're interested in hearing about our research.
Mm-hmm.
And so before we do anything with the study, we really need to go through this consent form.
Okay.
So I'm going to have one in front of you, and I'm going to go through each part with you.
Okay,
So
good.
the reason we do this, as you can see down here, is so you can learn about all the details of the study, that you have a lot of time to ask questions
Yes.
until you fully understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I'm going to be asking you questions as you go through just to make sure that I'm explaining it right to you.
Yes, okay.
So the important thing to remember, and I'll probably say this multiple times,
Okay.
is that you are a volunteer through this process. So as we go through, I'm going to ask you at the end to sign if you decided that it's something you want to do, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to sign, and if you sign and decide later, you can take it back.
Okay.
So you don't
good.
have to worry about that.
Okay, good.
So let's start with the title. It's called The Psycholinguistic Analysis of Aphasic Syndromes. It's a pretty fancy title.
Yes, it is.
So
Mhm.
what it means is just that we are studying all different types of aphasia.
Yes.
So you were chosen to be in this study because of your diagnosis of aphasia.
Yes.
And we are funded by the National Institutes of Health. Have you heard of the NIH? You may have
Yes,
heard.
I did.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
So they're a public agency, a government agency, that promotes and funds health-related research of all kinds. And so we're happy that they're funding our research
Yes.
on aphasia after stroke. So let's talk about research for a minute. This is a question that a lot of people really don't fully comprehend.
Yes.
Is research like medical treatment? And I want to make sure that you know that research is different from medical treatment. So medical treatment, when you go to your doctor, it's really trying to make you better, you personally better for your particular problem. Research, on the other hand, tries to learn more about a medical problem and treatments for a whole group of people.
Okay.
So it may or may not benefit you. It will
Okay.
benefit maybe some people in that group, and if you're in that group, it would benefit you, but it
Okay.
also may not. So that's one thing you need to keep in mind.
Okay, good.
And so here's my first question for you. Is research the same as your medical treatment?
No, it's not.
Okay,
Mhm.
I explained that right.
Thank you.
All right, so let's go on to this next page. And remember I mentioned that we are studying aphasia and trying to understand the different kinds of aphasia that people have after a stroke. And so one of the ways that we try to understand it is by looking at where in the brain the stroke occurred. So during the course of this study, we might ask for your permission to get some of your brain scans that you have had in the past, like CT or MRI scans. And as we learn more about your aphasia, we may also find that you're eligible for a new brain scan free of charge through the University of Pennsylvania. But later on, you can choose whether you want to hear more about this. We're not going to
Good.
talk really about that
Okay,
today.
good.
And just in terms of what we're going to do, lots of things. You'll work with a team member one-on-one. In this
Okay.
case, it's going to be
Good.
me. And you can do some or all of these things. You can point to pictures on a screen, on a computer screen, or in a book. I might ask you to name pictures.
Yes.
Maybe repeat some words and sentences. Listen to tape-recorded words and try to decide if they're the same or not. I will probably tape record anything you say so that I can listen to it later and I don't
Okay,
have to
good.
remember while we're in this
Mhm.
session. And so those are some of the things that you might be asked to do.
Mm.
So here's my second question for you. Will I be asking you to possibly name some pictures?
Yes, you will.
I could be doing that,
Yes.
yes. Okay. So let's go
Okay.
to this next page.
Okay, thank you.
So it won't cost you anything to be in this study. And as a matter of fact, I can give you $15 an hour for each time that you come. If you travel to our lab costs you more than $5, we can contribute to those costs up to $20 a session. And you will be paid in cash each time that you come.
Okay, this is be at the University of Pennsylvania.
No, that's a good question.
Okay.
This is the study here. So we were going to get to that in this next paragraph. The University of Pennsylvania part of our study is a scan,
Okay.
and you may or may not have to do that. We're not sure about that. I just wanted to bring that to your attention in the
Okay, good.
beginning. But what I'm talking about now, with the picture naming and the repetition of words and all of the things similar to what you did in speech therapy,
Okay, good.
those tests are going to be done at one of our hospital locations, either Moss Rehab here at Elkins Park or down at Tabor Road if you prefer to go there.
Okay.
And you can bring a family member with you. And if it's absolutely impossible for you to go to either of those places, it may be possible for us to offer you a home visit.
Okay.
So we've got a lot of options.
Okay, good.
So keep that in mind. So the length of the study can vary from person to person. Some people may only come in for 1 or 2 visits. Some may come in up to 10 visits.
Okay.
So after the first couple of visits, we'll be able to determine which one of those groups you would fit into. And then just remember that each time you come, the visits are about an hour.
Okay, good.
So my third question, could this study take as long as 10 visits?
Yes.
Yes,
according-
it could.
Yes.
Okay, good. So here you can see that there might be a chance that you would get frustrated or tired through this study because sometimes things we ask you to do may be hard. We can always take a break. You don't have to
Okay.
work if you're tired. These are the only side effects that we've been able to identify,
Okay.
but we can take as many rest breaks as you need. So
Okay, good.
here's my next question for you. Will you have to continue working with me if you feel tired?
Now,
No.
rest breaks.
Rest breaks, as many as you would need.
Yes.
And then being in this research study may or may not help your aphasia, and this is really important to understand. This is kind of like what we talked about with the medical treatment.
Mm.
You shouldn't expect your own speech or your own understanding to get better just by being in this study. The information we get hopefully will help us understand aphasia for people in the future, but we can't guarantee that your own aphasia would get better just from being in this study.
Okay, good.
So can you be certain that your aphasia will improve
No.
from being in the
can't.
study?
You can't.
You can't. Okay, so far, do you have any questions for me about anything we've gone through?
No. You answered all the questions.
Very good.
Very good.
I'm glad I did.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, Mary, this section talks about your rights as a research volunteer. So there's a lot of them. You don't have to sign this study if you don't want to do it. But if you do want to be in this study, you do have to sign. So they just want to make sure you know
Okay,
that.
Good.
If you say yes now and you change your mind later, it's fine to do that.
Okay.
Many people have doctors here and therapists here. They go for visits, and it in no way has anything to do with your medical care.
Okay.
So you can still see your doctors. You can still see your therapists. You don't have to worry about hurting any of our feelings or hurting the research.
Yes.
So
Good.
honestly, we want you to realize that you're doing us a favor by
Okay.
coming here and doing this, and we're so appreciative. So
Yes.
if you need to change your mind later, that's fine. So my next question for you is, if you change your mind about being in this study, will you have to give up your doctors here?
No.
No, you don't. You do not. Good.
Yes.
So there's also a possibility once you started that someone could say you had to stop being in this study. We might find it's too hard for you,
Okay.
or maybe too easy.
Okay.
Or maybe NIH decides that they won't pay for it anymore. So
Okay,
there are
good.
lots of reasons why the study would need to be stopped.
Okay.
We just have to let you know about that.
Okay.
And then we can't really give guarantees about the results of the study. We don't know if we're going to find anything good or
Okay.
usable. And we don't know that you'll be able to finish it. So
Okay.
we just have to tell you that up front too.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So up through this point, we've been talking just about the things that we do in this study. Now, from this bottom of page 4 all the way through page 7, yeah, we're going to talk about confidentiality. And so your rights to privacy of the information that we collect. And you, if you've been to the doctor's office and sometimes the banks, they generally give you a privacy information packet to sign.
Yes, they do.
And so you probably are familiar with those. It all comes from the HIPAA laws, the government laws on privacy, and they're good laws. They're good laws because they really have helped to make things confidential.
Okay, good.
So instead of giving you a separate piece of paper to sign, we put it all in one form.
Okay, good.
So when you sign this form today, if you sign this form today, you are saying, yeah, I want to do the things that you said the study is all about, and I'm also allowing you to use my information.
Okay,
So it's kind of a twofold thing.
okay.
All right, so let's go through this a little bit.
Same.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is what kinds of things we're going to collect and why. We're going to collect your contact information because we need to get in touch with you by phone or by letter.
Okay.
We're going to collect some general information like are you male or female, what your education was, your age, because that helps us with our study results.
Okay, good.
We'll collect some health information from your medical records about your stroke and maybe the results of some of your brain scans or
Okay,
CT
good.
scans that you've had. But at no time are we going to be collecting any information that's sensitive. So if you have psychiatric care information or treatment for drug or alcohol abuse or AIDS information, we really do not collect that information
Okay,
at all.
I understand.
And of course, we're going to collect research information, like how well you name pictures and how well you answer questions in through the study with the
Okay,
different
great.
tests that we do.
Mhm.
So my next question is, will we be collecting some of your personal information?
Yes, you're right.
Yes, we will. Okay. And so who gets to share in that information? Who's going to see it? If you sign this form, you're allowing us only to share it with the people that I have listed here.
Okay.
Okay? Certain people only. We will not share it with anybody else who's not on the list unless you sign a separate thing that says, yes, I want you
Okay.
to share it with my doctor
Mhm.
in Germantown or whatever.
Okay.
So here's the people that get to see it. All members of the research team. That's our aphasia research team.
Okay, good.
So right now we have about 8 people. Sometimes it's up to 9, sometimes it's down to 6. It varies. But people who are in the aphasia lab.
Mhm.
We also would share some of the information with researchers we work with at other places. Remember I mentioned the scan at the University of
Yes.
Pennsylvania. So
Mhm.
there is a small group there. If you
Mhm.
went for the scan, they would have to know who you are.
Yes. Mhm.
And there's another small group at the University of Illinois.
Okay.
And they help us understand the study results. So they get the
Okay.
results and do all kinds of
Wonderful.
analysis on
Mhm.
it.
Good.
Other MRI staff members may also share in the information. And that means there's lots of research going on here.
Mhm.
And we all meet periodically to talk about how to help each other's projects.
Okay.
So in other words, if maybe we can't understand why our group is doing something, they help us to understand those results
Okay.
and help us maybe to plan future studies too.
Okay.
Sometimes you may know these people, you may have been in their studies, and sometimes you may not know them. So
Okay,
there are other
great.
researchers here though at
Mhm.
MRRI.
Okay.
The NIH, this is the group that pays for the study, so they want to know who's in it. And our institutional review board here at Einstein, and that is the group of people that they look over the results of every study every year to make sure all the rules are being followed. So they
Okay,
would
great.
have to know who you are just to be
Okay.
able to do that. Since you're a member of the research registry, we would also notify them that you did this study, so you wouldn't be called twice for the
Okay,
same
good.
study. And maybe if you had a change of phone number, we would tell them
Mhm.
that so that they had the right way to contact
Okay,
you for
great.
another one.
Mhm.
And if you were seeing therapists or doing other activities here and you wanted us to help you coordinate that, if we told them that you had a specific time you had to come, they of course would know that you
Okay.
were participating in research. So that's why this is here. You can, if you ever wanted us to do that, to tell your therapists or activity coordinators, we could do that too. So here's my next question. Are we going to share your information with everyone who asks for it?
Only the people that are on this list.
Only the people that are on this list,
Yes.
right? So we're not going to share it with
Anyone,
everyone.
No.
Okay. And you should also know that there's a lot that's published here. This is a lab that does a lot of publishing in journals,
Okay.
and also we have a website with information for other researchers to look at. We do put our information on there, but nothing from you personally. There would be absolutely no way that anyone
Okay.
could identify you
Okay,
in any
great.
of those publications. Okay. So what else should you know about confidentiality? We keep everything in locked file cabinets, and our computers are password protected. We're going to keep it until we no longer need it, or until the study ends. There's a time limit, I think, just like you have to keep tax returns for
That's
so
right,
many
you
years.
have to,
There's a
yeah.
time limit on how long we have to keep this
Okay, yes.
after the study ends.
Mm-hmm.
And in this paragraph, they really just want you to know that as careful as we are, and we are really careful,
Yes.
there's really no way you can guarantee that it would stay private. You could possibly have a hacker, you could possibly have someone who would come in and steal information, but the likelihood of that is so small because
Yes.
we follow everything to the letter of the law. We're really careful about that around here.
Okay, good.
So my next question is, do we keep information private?
Yes.
Yes, we definitely do. Good.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
right here?
you're doing well. Okay. So you have to allow us to collect this information and to use it, or else we wouldn't have a study.
Okay.
But if you say yes now, say you say yes now, and then you decide you don't want to do it anymore in the future, we would stop collecting information about you. We wouldn't collect it. Of course, you wouldn't be in the study at that point,
Okay.
and we would no longer collect information. But we still would be able to use what we already have collected in
Okay,
the
good.
past.
Mm-hmm.
So if you change your mind, here's my last question. If you change your mind about being in this study, will we stop collecting new information about you?
If you change your mind,
Let me
About
say it
this-
again. If you change your mind about being in this
yes,
study,
yes or no, right. Mm-hmm.
will we stop collecting new information about you?
Oh dear. I'm getting a little.
No, you
If
know
you
what? It's not
change-
you, it's me. I didn't. Let me
If
go
you
back and explain
change
this
your
again.
mind.
So, you can change your mind,
Oh, yes, you may.
You
and
may
can
change your mind.
Yes or no later on.
and later
Yes.
on you can exactly.
Mhm.
And so, let me explain this again about your information. Remember how you say yes to do the study, but then you also say yes
Yes.
to let us use your information.
Right, exactly.
So if you decide you don't want us to use information any longer, we would stop collecting new information.
Oh, you would stop if you change your mind.
Right.
Exactly.
But we would probably use the old information that we already have collected.
Okay.
But we would not collect any new information.
Okay, if you change your mind. Yes.
So let me ask that again, because that's a tough, I think that should be worded even simpler. But if you change your mind
Yeah.
about being in this study, will we stop collecting new information?
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, I understand it now.
Good.
Okay.
This little paragraph here, compensation for injury, this is in a lot of consent forms that you read.
Mhm.
It really means that if you become injured or ill while you're in this study, Einstein will give you appropriate medical care, all the appropriate medical care it can provide. However, they're not promising that it can be given free of charge. So costs may need to be covered by your own health insurance or by you.
I
So that
see.
means if you fell coming out of the elevator, or if
Yes.
you forgot to take your medicine and
Mhm.
fainted, we would definitely make sure you got all the care you needed.
Okay,
But we
good.
can't promise that the insurance, that it would be free of charge. Your insurance
Yeah,
would
our
kick in.
insurance will pay for it. Yes, good.
And then from here, the contact information questions. If you have any of these questions about research, about being in a study, about your rights as a research participant, there are several listings of people who work here at the Institute who can answer those questions.
Okay.
If you feel your information was well protected. If you just want more information about your rights, you can call some of these people.
Okay.
Or you can also just call me. I will also give you
Okay,
my
good.
phone number. So you've got a lot of resources
Okay.
to work with if
Good.
you have some questions. Okay.
Yes, I understand now.
So, if you feel that this has been explained to you, if you feel that you've had your questions answered, you can ask more now if you want.
It's okay now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But if you feel it's clear and you feel like you want to do it,
Well, when I say yes now, okay, but you have to wait until the staff says I'm going to be a participant
right.
of
Well,
the research.
what you would be doing now is starting in the process. So you would
Yes.
definitely come in
Yeah.
and we would start the screening process to see whether or not you're eligible to continue on.
Exactly. Okay.
So you would come in for 1, maybe 2 sessions, and then we would tell you whether or not you would proceed for the next
Okay.
sessions up to 10.
Okay. Now, I can only come on Fridays if I decide to say yes.
That would be fine.
Only on Fridays.
We would be able to do it.
Okay. Because it's helping me and other people that has aphasia also. I know. That's what we're having this research for, helping everyone.
Right.
Not just me, but everyone else. Okay, now. Should I sign yes?
Sure. If you feel that you want to do this. Are you sure you want to do this?
How long will it be? Any hours? An hour or more?
An hour at a time. And remember, it could go anywhere from 2 sessions up to 10.
I don't remember that. Yes. I can do it, helping other people myself.
Okay.
And they have to still review me.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
And remember, if you wanted to change your mind later,
I can.
You
I
can.
remember that.
so let me print your name for you. There you go. And you can sign there. Right here on this line. That's great. And the date?
It's 11/16, right?
Right.
12.
Perfect.
I remember.
And I'm going to sign as well. First I'll print my name. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is make a photocopy of this
Okay.
and give it to you to take home.
Okay, good.
Again, I'm going to stress you're a volunteer, and if you decide that you don't want to do this at any time,
I can
all you have to do
change.
is tell me.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Mary, I have your photocopy,
Thank you.
and there it is.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to working with you.
Okay, it's a pleasure.